Welcome to NHL Tonight, first shift for a Friday, October the 25th, 2024. EJ Radic alongside Mark Parrish making his debut with us today on First Shift. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Really?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
New show, getting out here with you,
Okay.
Talk. What could be better? What could be better on the afternoon than BS and hockey with you?
I can't argue with that at all.
Amen.
And, let's bring in our producer for today, Devin, because, Devin wants to welcome you in
there
as well.
He is.
We welcome in the producer, Devin. Devin making his debut today.
2 debuts today.
I know.
There
I
we
love
go.
it. I love it. What do you think of Mr. Parrish? Is he dressed appropriately?
Yeah, very business casual, smart.
That was exactly what I was going for.
Yeah, you look sharp.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you're sitting next to me, so you always look good.
I got it. Well, no,
you
raised the bar.
No, that's the bar is low. The bar is low. All right, let's get to first things first, because we got some news for you. The New York Rangers have come to terms, apparently, with their star young player, Alexis Lafreniere. You hear Vinny Marcaglino with this tweet, confirmed per source. They have agreed to a 7-year extension, $52.15 million. The AAV, which is what the fans care about, is $7.45 million
Yep.
per season. That was first reported by our friends over at Puckpedia. So interesting news for the Rangers. I watched them last night, kind of a back and forth game with Florida. Florida ended up getting the better of it. Sergei Bobrovsky with his 700th win, or 400th win, excuse me.
He really shot up.
I really gave him a lot of, not quite there yet, but he was great. But let's get to Lafreniere. I mean, what do you make of this deal? I mean, I think it's one of those deals that probably good for both sides.
I couldn't agree more. You look at Lafreniere, he's in his 4th year, he's in his 5th year now. Yeah. Last year, his 4th season is the breakout year. And that's exactly when I had my breakout year. That's when, guys, it seems to come together. And I know that happens to the majority of skill guys because a guy named Theo Fleury, when it was peak Theo Fleury, we were playing each other at the Coliseum, Islanders Rangers, mind you.
Okay.
And let's just say this conversation wasn't what I was expecting from Theo Fleury. And he kind of reached over to me because I started out hot, and he's like, "Hey, man, congratulations on he's starting out on fire, man. Keep it up. Keep it up."
Nice to hear that from your peers.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Player.
Somebody not only did I look up to, obviously, before, but as the way he played the game, everything. He was a stud. So we just kind of a nice little conversation. He's like, "Oh, yeah, it took me 4 years, too." That's when it just takes off. Yeah. That's when it works for everybody. Ever since then, it's funny. I've paid attention to it.
Yeah.
And he's right. There's something to that.
Yeah.
Whether it's the maturing process, whether it's just kind of, there's a little, I don't care how highly touted you are, there's a little, I can't believe I'm in the NHL anymore.
Yeah, of
you know
course,
what I mean?
yeah.
There's a little shock to that, and it takes a little bit to get going to that. Everybody physically matures at a different stage in their early 20s when you start to become a real man. And then as you pick it up, it just takes a little while to get acclimated. And Lafreniere, obviously, with the 28 last year's career high, I don't think there's a problem with him getting 30. I mean, he's going to be a 30-plus goal scorer from here moving forward. But, as we talked to before, that playoffs last year is what earned
eight goals,
ticket.
14 points in 16 games. And he actually had a good playoff a couple of years prior when they went to the Eastern Conference Final and lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning as a younger player.
Yes.
So a lot of pressure. First overall pick, coming to the New York Rangers. And it's not like he came to the Rangers who had a pretty good team, right? So he's not on the first power play, for example, right?
No.
Like he is not in situations where maybe you'll get even more points. So as this continues moving forward, those numbers could grow over time. And I think for the organization, this is a really good deal because they lock him up over term. They get him until he's, I think, 30 or 31 years of age. And they buy those really good years in there at a very reasonable price because if he goes out this year and puts up the 35 or 40,
exactly.
and then maybe he gets onto the first power play and then maybe he's doing even more, that number is going to look really good in a league where the salary cap is going up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's why I love this move by Chris Drury, the way that he jumped on it. He's like, hey, I see what I got. He's seeing the future. And this is a great way the business of the NHL has changed in the contracts, is having the guys pay them in their prime. Where it was, we looked at when I was playing, when it was for so long, you were kind of wrapped up until the free agency.
Yeah, free agency was 31
exactly.
prior to the CBA 20-some years ago now. So that made quite a difference, right? Think about waiting until you're 31 to be a free agent. And then by that time, to your point, right, guys would become free. Teams would still sign them to big contracts.
Yep.
And then because the age catches up with all of us, those contracts didn't always look so good. So
Father
teams are
Time's
trying,
undefeated.
You know, there's negatives to these things too, right? Because you try to get ahead of somebody, and sometimes that doesn't work out.
No.
So we'll see how this plays out. But I would say, with the information we have right now, I think this could be a really good contract for the New York Rangers. And, you know, I'm surprised a little at the term. The player wants the security, so I'm all for that. He likes being here.
Oh, for sure.
But at the end of the day, maybe he would have been better at, let me do 4 years.
Little short,
because I could get another crack at a higher level. But you know what? Not so bad to be making 7.45, whatever it ends up being per season, and making $50 million, $52 million in an NHL where that kind of money is usually, it's pretty guaranteed unless you fall off a cliff. And even then, you still get a percentage of that if there were to be a buyout situation. But I like it when teams get ahead of it because they're betting on the player to be good, and the player is betting on himself.
Yeah, for sure. And they still got to worry about that Shesterkin guy. Chris has got a little bit of bigger fish to fry there when it comes to a contract, but I think he hit this one out of the park.
All right. Well, he was a number one overall pick. We got a couple of other guys that you may have heard of that were number one overall picks going head-to-head tonight. Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I've heard them a couple times.
You've heard of those guys,
the name,
right?
You know, they get tossed around the rink.
Sidney Crosby, first overall pick in 2005. Totally different situation, right? Coming out of a work stoppage. That was a very different draft scenario that year. There was a lottery for who would pick where. The Penguins won the lottery. They get Sidney Crosby. And then 10 years later, Connor McDavid, first overall pick to the Edmonton Oilers. And they're playing tonight. It's the 14th meeting between these two guys. You see the numbers up there. McDavid has had the upper hand in terms of the on ice with 7-3-3 and obviously 27 points. And we talked about this before. They're two different players. McDavid is certainly at this, with the stage of his career when these two have played, he's more of an offensive threat. And Crosby does different things to help his team win. But certainly whenever we can get these, I mean, these are two of the top 5, 6, 7 players to ever play against one another. It's back in the day when we would get to see Gretzky and Lemieux go head-to-head, or we've had Crosby and Ovechkin going head-to-head for many years, coming into the league around the same time. This is really, we don't get this enough, but it should be fun tonight. I
love watching when McDavid comes to Minnesota because he brings the best out of Kaprizov. The best always want to match up against each other. There's always a little machismo in our game. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot of machismo in our game. And that's where you see these guys, when they go up head-to-head, they get excited. They want to outdo each other. And they're both going to say all the right things in the papers. They're both leaders. They understand it's a game. But they pay attention. You pay attention to those stats, just like he was against Ovi. You're going to pay attention to this one. And I couldn't agree more. They're two completely different players for their team. But Crosby is Mr. Everything. Literally, if you need a job done, just send him out there and he'll take care of it for you. Whereas Connor's obviously looked more offensively as a weapon and, carrying the team offensively at times.
You know, the one thing, though, that all the great players, and certainly these two have in common, is their expectation for themselves so outdistances anyone else's. Like even their teammates or fans or coaches or whoever, they have such high expectations for themselves. McDavid said so much during the Amazon series when he was interviewed, and they were following him closely during their run to the Cup final, and Sid is the same way. They have such high expectations for themselves. That's why they continue to be great. Crosby continues to be great into his mid-30s because he just works so doggone hard at everything, and Connor is the same way.
They're never satisfied with their game. They will find something. As we look at them as both as more or less perfect hockey players from the outside, they don't see that. They see that they still got work to get done. I mean, you saw it early on in Sid. In his career, he wasn't happy with his stick handling. He's one of the best puck handlers to ever play the game, but he wasn't satisfied with it. So he wanted to get more like Patrick Kane and get quicker hands. And that's what these guys are all about, is just not being. So they have this inner drive that even those of us that we think we're OCD, like we think we have that, we don't have that extra muscle that they have to push them up and over and beyond everyone. Because that's the thing. It's so easy to sit on the outside and be like, oh, look at the skill. Look at the talent McDavid was gifted. That's a lot of hard work. Now I'll give it to you.
It's a lot of
there's
skating.
some gift in there.
Yeah.
But that is a ton of hard work on his skating, on his shot, on everything.
A lot of sacrifice. You give up
100%.
things to spend that time day after day after day. I mean, I tell the story about Crosby. Stanley Cup final a couple of years ago. I believe it was in their series against San Jose. There was it might have been against Nashville, but there was an extra day off in between the games, and the Penguins were at home. And nobody was at the rink that day. The only guy there was in the gym was Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
And so that's what it takes to be great. Now, Crosby, deeper in his career, 3 Stanley Cups, won just about everything there is to win. The Pittsburgh Penguins trying to kind of, hang in there this year. They've made some changes to their group a little bit of an older team. Then you got the Edmonton Oilers, so close last year, losing 7. Remember, Crosby's first crack to the final, he lost to the Detroit Red Wings. The next year they came back and won. They're still chasing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you come into tonight's game, the Oilers, another slow start. They need this win at home. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're coming off a game in Calgary where they blew a lead late, lost in a shootout. So there's some early season urgency here for both.
I couldn't agree more. Especially Edmonton, you don't want to be. I watched Minnesota put themselves in a hole that they literally just could not crawl out of last year. Early on, it happens, and it can happen quick before you even realize it. The one thing about Edmonton, we talk about Florida and their kind of slow start, maybe a little bit of a slow start because of that hangover, the Stanley Cup hangover. Edmonton had to play all those big games too. They played every minute that the Florida Panthers played. They played it just as hard as the Florida Panthers. Not to mention, there's the disappointment of playing all those minutes and not coming away with the trophy.
Yeah.
So you get that, you're a little bit tired, you're a little bit frustrated, you just maybe not quite as focused as you should be coming back at the beginning of this year. The way Connor McDavid, the leadership that he has, it's only a matter of time. I mean, until he either wakes them up or just puts them on his back. I mean, he's got options.
Special teams for the Oilers.
How about
you saw
that?
Those numbers. I mean, the power play is like the penalty killing last year. Down the stretch in the postseason, that was lights out. In the final, they were scoring goals when they were down a man and not giving anything up. And then the power play, we know how good that power play is. So that would be a little concerning. I think they'll figure it out.
Yes.
But, boy, that's a bad start.
It's a terrible start when you think about that lineup, what they've done. And it wasn't just last year. This is a power play that has dominated for years.
Yeah.
And they're coming back and running it back with more or less the same guys there. And so it is shocking. It's surprising. I like the little mix-up, but again, once the dust settles and everything starts working out fine, the power play gets clicking back. Yeah, they're going to go.
They're too good.
They have no choice.
They're too good. I do want to ask you something about Crosby and McDavid. One more thing between those two is they're going to get to be teammates for the first time that I can recall at the Four Nations tournament for Canada. And McDavid was asked about, Sid is the captain, and McDavid gave the perfect answer. He should be the captain. And let's face it, he should be the captain. That's where we're at right now. But I think it's going to be fun to watch these two interact on the same ice sheet for Canada. And that's what we've missed in this best on best. We haven't had the opportunity for guys like McDavid to play alongside a Sidney Crosby and some of the other great players.
Even us American boys are excited about it. Are you kidding me?
Of course.
I mean, this is great. No, do you finally get to see literally, you nailed it, like 2 of the top 5-6 players of all time on the same ice playing together. And of course, McDavid said the right thing, and he is right. Until Sidney retires, he's the captain of Team Canada. He's earned it. He's the leader. He's the guy that's going to play all the big minutes. He plays the best, still arguably probably the best two-way player in the game. I mean, it's just everything he's done. That's where McDavid wants to be.
Yeah, so that's a good one tonight. Penguins continuing a Western trip. Always a big trip for them. All the Western Canadian fans flock to see Sidney Crosby. So that should be a good one. Crosby and the Penguins, McDavid and the Oilers. They'll be busy there. They won't have time to celebrate Nevada Day.
No.
Which we can celebrate.
Yes, we can.
Because it is Nevada Day, and because of that, the Vegas Golden Knights play an afternoon game, 3 p.m. Pacific time. They take on the Ottawa Senators today, so that one's a 6 p.m. Eastern time start, so it's something they've done every year. I love that. So happy Nevada Day to those who celebrate. And we've got a little news from Vegas. Came in last night. Shea Theodore signed to a contract extension as well. You can see it right there, the 7-year contract. And he has been a terrific player for the Vegas Golden Knights. He was originally drafted by Anaheim, and it was one of those kind of thefts during the expansion draft, where they were trying to protect some players in Anaheim. Remember, they had those good defensemen.
Oh.
They had Fowler, they had Lindholm, they had BX at that time, they had Josh Manson, they had Vatanen, I think, in their system.
We're loaded.
And so, and Theodore was a first-round pick. He was just 26th overall pick in 2013, so he was a good player as well. But in Anaheim at that time, they were worried about losing a player. I think they were worried about protecting maybe Biexo or one of those players.
Yeah, it was Fowler kind of son of
And so they traded Theodore to Vegas with the idea that you'll pick Clayton Stoner in the expansion draft, and that's the way it'll go. Worked out, needless to say, it worked out very good for the Vegas Golden Knights because Shea Theodore leads them in just about every offensive category for defensemen during his time there. And he is a difference maker for them. He's helped them win a Stanley Cup. And that defense now, they're locked and loaded with contracts. He's a really good player. I'm really happy for Shea Theodore.
A pillar for that team.
There it is.
He's just gotten better and better. Like, he's absolutely, and he sat there and kind of waited till his turn to get paid. He's watching everybody else get paid around him, just quietly doing his job. And he came in with a lot of offensive upside. Everybody was, I want to say expecting. Yeah, we were kind of expecting them to him to have the offensive upside. It took him a little while to figure out the back end. And obviously, he's one of the best defensemen in the game, honestly. If I think about it, I like to think about this guy as one of those middle-of-the-road defensemen that everyone is looking for.
Can skate it.
Yeah,
can move it
everyone's
up. Can
looking for. It's not your number one, but he is somebody that you absolutely
first
need.
pair guy.
Yeah, first pair. There you go. First pair guy.
And he
You're
can help
always
you.
looking for one of those. Those are the guys who win Stanley Cups with.
That's right.
That's why they realize it, and that's why they're hanging on to it. I think it's like another good deal for both sides with that number.
Yeah, and you know what? I look at that full screen there with Nick Hague on the back end. His contract is coming up. I love that guy. He's big, strong, hard to play against. I'll be curious to see. They're going to try to get that contract done, but he's an interesting guy because he can be a helpful guy. I'm sure there'll be a lot of
I was going to say, that's the thing. There's going to be a lot of phone calls. Up until that ink ink dries on that contract, there going to be a lot of phone calls.
He's a big boy.
Yes, he is.
You didn't like playing against him.
No, I did not. You can't coach size. Can't teach size. I know that.
And he's kind of nasty.
I think we like that in this game.
Yeah, all right. Well, listen, congratulations to Shea Theodore. Vegas Golden Knights in action later against the Ottawa Senators. We come back. Hey, the Jets. Perfect 7-0 win in overtime against the Seattle Kraken. We'll talk Jets when we come back on First Shift. A little history at Madison Square Garden on Thursday night. Sergei Bobrovsky got his 400th career victory and became the fastest goalie in league history to reach that mark, besting the king, Henrik Lundqvist, who did it in 727 games. Fittingly, he was in the building last night. I was at the game, the Panthers and Rangers, and he was brilliant in that game. He had a tough game against the Wild at home on Tuesday night. He was absolutely brilliant in a game where there was a lot of back and forth, made a number of terrific saves, one great toe stop on Trocheck in the second period.
Oh, my Lord.
Lights out, great stop. Right?
Still can't believe he made that save.
I mean,
he's sliding left, and he still was able to.
Yeah, he was terrific in the game, and so he gets there, and as we're watching these highlights, I mean, there was a lot of chances on both sides. I mean, this is October. And teams, the defensive intensity has yet, in my view, to ramp up.
Agreed.
And so there was a lot of seam passes and a lot of guys coming late with really good looks, walking right down the slot. And I thought Igor was very good as well, particularly in the third period, but Bobrovsky gets the job done.
Yeah.
And I was watching him after the game because he spoke to us in the media afterwards. He's a very kind of quiet, humble guy. But I was just watching him put his equipment away, like piece by piece, packing things up, taking all because the goalies they wear all this. They weigh way more stuff even than they used to, right?
Oh, yeah.
With the underpads and all this stuff. But I was just watching him. He was just very, very methodical in the way he was doing it, like he does it exactly the same way after every single game, and he's got the mask for the game and then the mask for the warm-up. And here he is, right in the same room there, holding up the puck.
That's the biggest smile you'll see from him right there, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I was kind of shocked. When I did not know he had been the fastest. I knew he was going for 400 and he got it. I figured, Marty Brodeur played with a really good Devils teams. He played every game. I figured that maybe he would have been the fastest. But when you think about it, maybe the fact that he played every game meant that there was more games. And so it took him maybe a little longer because there was some losses in there.
Yeah.
The thing about Bobrovsky that's fascinating, and you said it, I thought about it last night, Paul Maurice brought it up in the postgame, is he hasn't played on, he wasn't playing on the 78 Canadians for the last several years. I mean, he started in Philly on an okay Flyer team. He went to Columbus, a team that had ups and downs, and he got them really.
He was their ups.
Won 2 Vezina trophies with them. And then he went to Florida. The first couple of years in Florida were not great.
It was a tough signing.
So it's kind of amazing that he was able to get all those wins. Really a testimony to how good this guy is.
I was working on the fly last night with Alexa, and when she said it, it almost floored me. I could not believe it because same thing. My first thought was, he was stuck in Columbus for like a decade. How did he get that many wins? That is truly a testament to Bobrovsky. And as we were talking about before, too, I have never heard anything but this guy just works his tail off.
That's
another one of those
that's
guys
what everybody
that
says.
Well,
and
again,
I've seen it, too.
A great shocker. Here's another one of the greats that's never satisfied and continues to work on his game. Maybe there's something to that work ethic thing. It's just crazy, isn't it?
And being so willing to sacrifice all that time and effort to get there. And he is certainly that way. I know I talked to Anthony Stolarz, who was the backup in Florida last year, and this year now is with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and really off to a good start himself.
He is.
And he said, just watching Bobrovsky helped him, watching his preparation, watching the way he approached things every single day. And he's a little bit of a different cat. He does things differently, right? He's got that little bit of a smaller paddle that he uses, plays in a different manner. But, boy, when he is on, he is hard to beat.
And I love that Stolarz. That was what I did. I sat there and I watched Dino Ciccarelli. I followed every little the drills he did in front of the net. Dino Ciccarelli doing Pavel Bure worked with on breakaways. Didn't quite take as much as the rebound stuff with Dino, but hey, that's what you do. That's how you learn. You watch the guys in front of you. You watch the players that are better than him, and whatever you can take for yourself and implement into your process, into your style of play, into whatever. That's the way to do it. How else do we get better? We watch the greats and we emulate.
Exactly. Learn from what they do. And for the Florida Panthers, they won the Stanley Cup last year, so now the target is on their back. I talked to Paul Maurice. He was funny. I said, this is different for you. You've never come into a season as a champion, and there's different challenges. And he was like, yeah, there really is, and trying to motivate guys. But then he stopped and he goes, I do like it, though. Everybody
that's Paul
and I just started laughing. I said, of course, right? You want to win.
It's a problem everybody wants.
And so, the Panthers this year, it's been interesting because I also happen to run into Bill Zito up in the press box, and, you ask, how's the team going? And he goes, we've got ups and downs. And you look at their record so far, and 5-3-1 is pretty good when you consider no Barkov for most of that.
No.
They missed Matthew Tkachuk for a stretch of it. He's back now, and they're working in new players. But the interesting thing Bill said was, when we play the teams, we're ready. We played Boston twice. We're ready for them. They played well. They won both the games. They're ready to play a Rangers team last night. They find a way we got out to a good start, won the game. They played Vegas earlier, found a way to win. They're up for those teams.
It's easy to get up for those games.
But are they ready for some of these other games? And that's the challenge that everybody in this league has. And certainly it's a bigger challenge for the teams that are at the top because everybody, Mark, when you played against the Stanley Cup champions.
Oh, you could not wait to get on the ice.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait.
You wanted that opportunity, right?
There's such a difference, and you know that you have a target on your back. You won the Stanley Cup. Everybody's got, but you don't realize how different everyone's going to play against you compared to being a Stanley Cup contender the years before, as opposed to the champ. You are the measuring stick. Every team is going to they're going to measure how they line up against you. And so you're going to get the best from every team. So it takes a little while to kind of get that into your brain sometimes, that those teams that were like, we didn't have to play our best because, they were down below us and, they weren't going to they weren't giving them the best either.
Yeah.
Seeing they're going to come up against you Florida's going to get the best from everyone every night. Even when that Islanders team, we were 31st out of 31. I mean, we got a chance to play the big boys. We got to play the Red Wings. I mean, we were ready to go against those teams.
Let's measure ourselves.
Absolutely.
Against those guys.
It was a personal measuring stick, too.
Yeah,
That's a great point, EJ.
Exactly. And because, the thing, too, is everybody's watching. So when teams see you playing well against a really good team, and they're like, all of a sudden, let me circle this. Maybe
Exactly.
this guy can help us. And like the Florida Panthers, they've gone through changes this year, so they've had to add pieces to the puzzle. They got both those Boquist now, and like Adam Boquist was a high draft pick as a defenseman. He moved around a little bit, Columbus, Chicago. They get him now. Maybe this is a good time for him. He's like you talked a little bit about, going into your fourth year. He's had a little experience now. Defense is a hard position. He's in a good team with good players around him.
Exactly.
Maybe he'll become a little bit more of a factor and be the player that people thought he would be when he was drafted high. And I would also add, when I think about defense with Florida, watching Gustav Forsling again, he is so brilliant to watch, and he's such a terrific skater.
So much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Makes it look easy. Does not get in trouble.
In all areas, though.
Like, I want to see if there's any sweat on his shirt underneath after that game. Because, honest to God, it doesn't look like he gets... There's no panic.
Yeah.
There's nothing. The play needs to get done. He's like, okay, no big deal. I'll go take care of this, coach.
Yeah. He is... he doesn't... You're right.
Yeah,
He's a man of a few words, but he skates great, and in all three zones, he makes a difference. So the Panthers getting ready to go over to Finland to take on the Dallas Stars. I'm fortunate enough to go over there, calling those games alongside Steve Conroy, and you'll have them right here on the NHL Network. That's next Friday and Saturday from Finland, Dallas, and Florida. Let's get to the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
Can't bury the lead here. The Winnipeg Jets, 7-0.
Oh, my Lord.
And they get it done in Seattle, and, they had a 3-1 lead in this game. They blow the lead in the third period. They're in overtime. And you know what? It's a mark of a good team. They find a way on the road after blowing a lead to win the game. They get the goal by Ehlers. There was a delayed penalty, so it was a 4-on-3.
Yep.
Ehlers came off the bench. He takes the shot, and it kind of just found its way through Decord into the net, and that ends up being the game winner in this game. So the Winnipeg Jets.
Whistle.
We talked. They are just, from what I can tell from the outside, angry as all get out that they lost so badly in the playoffs.
Maybe a little like Minnesota, right? Like you said it earlier. You're up there, like irritated, bad taste in your mouth from the season before. You want to make a statement. They seem like they're both reading off the same card. It's like, we're going to play hard and get out to this good start.
They both came back with one mindset: take care of business. Hellebuck, obviously the Vezina Trophy winner last year, and I think there's a lot of pressure. You go back to we all talk about that pressure, and I always used to tell that to the New York media when I was playing there, and they were like, the pressure that you feel here playing for the New York media. I'm like, guys, it's nothing compared to what we put on ourselves. Nothing. You guys are nothing.
So true.
It's a little more annoying.
So true.
But you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's not. It's nothing. So when you talk about that moving forward here, that's just gonna. I blanked on it.
That's okay. But here it is.
There we go, Winnipeg. Thank you. Bring me back. There we go.
Hey, I'll ask you this. Can the Winnipeg Jets take it to another level in the postseason? Because that's what they couldn't do last year.
And thank you for bringing me back to life.
All right.
That's literally where I was.
Now you're back.
That's where I was going with that. But can they do it in the playoffs? Because this is a team that's been built for the playoffs for the last couple of years.
They're trying, yeah.
You look at that lineup. I mean, with Kyle Connor, the greatest goal scorer nobody knows in the NHL. He's just hidden up there in Winnipeg. Mark Scheifele as their number one guy. They're the Pionks, these guys that step up. Their lineup is there and ready to play. Morrissey. We've been expecting them to do this in the playoffs for the last couple of years. So as much as this start is great, it's good for the team. It's good for those guys in the locker room. It's good for the confidence builder. Are you going to let us down again in the playoffs?
Yeah.
That's where they're at as a team. They're the kind of the Carolina of the Western Conference a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, I would say. We'll see if they can take it up a notch. But off to a great start. The only team in the league unblemished, 7-0. When we come back, we'll talk about your boys up in Minnesota.
Yes. About time.
Michael Russo from The Athletic joins us. Talk Mini next. Well, it's been a good start for the Minnesota Wild. You can see here, longest season opening point streaks. They've got 7 this time around. They go for 8 against the Flyers on Saturday. And you can see only one other team, the 07-08 Minnesota Wild, led by Mark Parrish, was able to get out of the gate quicker. So I think we are due to talk about the Minnesota Wild, and because of that, we bring in the one and only from The Athletic, our guy, Michael Russo. Michael, thanks for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. And let me just start here. You know, with the way this team...
Can I interrupt for one second?
Go ahead. All right, here we go. Listen, I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to leave. You guys get together.
Here it goes.
Go ahead.
I'm only laughing because that 07-08 team was known for 2 things. The Wild's only division championship in the defunct Northwest Division, and the last year the Mark Parrish played for the Minnesota
Wild. Very memorable.
Well,
very memorable.
You know, it was a good run.
And Mike, how excited are you to finally be playing center between me and EJ right now?
I know.
Come on, you got to be loving this.
That is a great spot.
My dream. Yeah, this is I covered Parrish as a rookie, and I knew one day, 30 years later, I'd be in this spot.
There you go. Well, my advice is to get him the puck. That's all I can tell you. He won't do much good getting it to me.
Let me shoot, and you better do the back check.
I'll give it back to you in 5 pieces, so it won't help you. All right, I just got to ask you this, though. Start of the season, it's been a good start for the Wild. How did it feel last night for those 5 or 6 minutes when the Wild were losing for the first time all year?
It was bizarre. I wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
I just figured that all year long that they were just going to go without having a trail. But you know what? I mean, like, what I loved about their game last night is they didn't waver. Like, they played the exact same way last night in those tense moments as they did the night before in Florida, or 2 days before in Florida, when they really outplayed the defending Stanley Cup champions. And so right now they are just playing really quality hockey. They're defending really, really strongly. They're buying in. I mean, guys like Lauko and Johansson last night selling out for huge block shots. They're getting great goaltending, and they're getting unbelievable play from their top players right now. So it's been, I don't even know if I want to say a surprising start, but because I really think, and I think Mark would agree with this, that when healthy, that I think we all felt that if they just got good goaltending, that this team had the ability to be a good team. But, you know, for the first 5 games where a lot of people looked at them and like, all right, they played Columbus a couple times or weren't really tested, for them to go into Florida, then go and follow it up with Fleury and net last night against Tampa Bay, it was just absolutely awesome to watch them play. And right now they just are really, really confident as a hockey club.
Yeah, Mike, let's stick with that. You're down there, you're around the room, you're with the guys. Now, this summer, getting to golf and hang out with Foligno and Hartman and all these guys, obviously, was great. And you saw the intensity. There was an edge to them this summer. Nobody was happy with how this year went. There was just this almost quiet confidence or quiet intensity, a confident intensity. I'm going to leave it with that one, with the team this summer. Has that continued on through this season?
Yeah, I really think they were embarrassed last year to not make the playoffs. I mean, look, Mark, you and I know the narrative in Minnesota that they make the playoffs every year, but they don't go on long playoff runs. But this team has gotten used to being in the playoffs and really felt like they had the team last year to get it done. They just had, obviously, some major injuries throughout the season. But I think they all went into this offseason with a chip on their shoulder. And you know, to the couple of the guys that you mentioned there, and Foligno and Hartman, I think they take it personally that you know, in a lot of ways, Bill Guerin, you know, went out and extended those two and Zuccarello, Jake Middleton's another guy, and then they want to now prove him right. And so they went into this offseason committed to come back and being stronger players. Obviously, Foligno's had a couple really injury-plagued years in a row. Hartman came back in fabulous shape. It's unfortunately that he's on the shelf right now with an upper body injury. But they came in with this edge this year, and right now they want to prove that they're still amongst the top teams in the Central Division.
Let me ask you about Kirill Kaprizov, because, I mean, you get to see him every day, and when you're fortunate enough to see great players do their job every day, I mean, you have a different perspective than we have. I see him every once in a while, and boy, he's really good. But you're seeing the day to day to day to day, and he has been terrific again this year. I think you had a note earlier that said he had 33 games in which he's had 3+ points. He's only one behind Koivu for that record, franchise record for such point games. and he's played way fewer games. I mean, like
Yeah, like
1/5 the
700
game.
fewer.
Yeah, 700 less, right? So to give the viewers, take us inside with Kaprizov. You've watched his development over these couple of years. Where is he at right now, and how good is this player?
Well, he's a legit superstar, and as Mark could attest, I mean, I've covered a couple of really good ones. Pavel Bure probably chief amongst them, but this guy is so dynamic, has an unbelievable shot. As you can see, he could score from ridiculous angles. That's a go-to goal for him all the time. That one-timer from that far circle. He skates hard. He goes to the dirty areas. He's a total leader on this team. And he just wants to win. And right now he is to me amongst the top 5 wingers in the league. He's got this unbelievable chemistry with Matt Zuccarello, where they just read off each other, don't ever have to talk to each other. It's just this uncanny sixth sense that they have. They're best of friends off the ice as well. And then you have Rossi fitting in like a glove right now between them, and Rossi's gotten off to a great start this year. So, Kirill. He's also just a pleasure to be around right now. Like his English is impeccable. He loves talking to the media, believe it or not, right now. I don't know. Love might be a strong word, he's telling us stories when we grab him. He's shooting the breeze, and he just seems to be so comfortable in his skin right now. And I think a lot of it is the fact that they're winning. The one thing with the Wild is, as again Mark could attest, being based there, is that it really like. So much of the load of this team fell on his shoulders, and maybe Matt Boldy last year and guys like Eriksson Ek. But if Kaprizov wasn't stirring this team, they just weren't going to go far. And right now, I feel like he sees a team that's playing really quality hockey up and down their lineup. All 4 lines are 60, have been outstanding, and they're getting great goaltending. So I think that he right now, is feeling like he doesn't have to shoulder all the brunt of just being the top guy every single night, even though he has been.
What's your quick grade on the depth guys? There was some questionable signings by Billy Guerin there. There was some long term they gave Johansson, the Felinos. What is your thoughts on that earlier this year?
Well, I mean, look, Foligno and Trenin got off to, I think, a slow start, but I think that they've really come on lately. The game in Florida where Huznadinov and then Gaudreau were their centers. I mean, Florida, as you know, they have a lot of high octane players, even without Barkov, and they really couldn't get anything done against that line. So they've been physical, they've been good. And last night I thought they were really good. And obviously you'd love to see them start to produce a little bit, but they've been great. The guy that has been really solid for them is Jake Middleton. Middleton got a 4-year extension this offseason. He's been on pins and needles all road trip, expecting that he's going to get that call from his wife to go back to Minnesota because they're due. He told me a hilarious story in Florida the other day that after the morning skate, all of a sudden he gets his text from his wife Natalie that says, "Are you available right now?" So he runs thinking that he's got to get on a flight back, and then it turned out to be just nothing. And he's like,
that's not nice.
Send me a text.
Yeah.
He's like, you cannot send me a text like that.
I just want to know if he was available. Are you available?
Come on.
Yeah, that's it. Are you available?
It wasn't
And
like, hey,
something
you got to get home right now. It was just, are you available?
I'm
Maybe
Team
chat.
Jake. I'm Team Jake in this
But he's
scenario.
been awesome. Faber's gotten off to a sensational start. The offense hasn't come to him yet, but he has just been great. Brodin's been good. So right now, I mean, look, it's a small sample size, 7 games in, but one of 2 teams without a regulation loss. They've defended incredibly, 1.86 goals per game against. It's tops in the league. Their power play has been really good. Wasn't great last night, but then when they needed it, scored the winning goal. And they just got so many weapons on that power play too. So, I obviously right now I'm a little bullish on them because they've played so well. We'll see as the season continues and the schedule starts to ramp up here. But so far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you play the games that are in front of you, and they're getting the job done. So it's great to get off to a good start. I'm sure that they're much happier with this start than last year when they had to go through a coaching change and things were different. I want to ask you about the goaltender. I mean, we know Philip Gustafsson is a goal scorer now, so he's got that checked off, right? But I look at the numbers this year, and this was a guy, Mike, that a couple years ago, right? We thought he's a guy that's coming. They gave him a contract, and then last year it was kind of a struggle for him. Although he did have some spots in the year where he played very well. He just had some injury issues. He's off to a great start this year. It seems like he has really settled into that job with Marc-Andre Fleury settling into the respected mentor backup.
Yeah, and remember, at one point, well, not at one point, all summer long, it looked like the Wild were going to have three goalies on their roster and started off with Jesper Wallstedt, and then they sent him down because part of it is injury issues, and they had to, be able to fit guys onto their roster right now. So Wallstedt had to go down, but Gustafsson came into camp in fabulous shape, and really looking for a bounce back year after last year, where they talked to him about his fitness level, his practice work habits. But he is such a good guy. He's only 26 years old. And who's to say he's not the goalie of this future of this team? I mean, at 3.75 million, that's a real reasonable contract the way the goalie contracts are going right now. So he's been awesome. 7 goals against in 5 games, and as you mentioned, with the incredible goal the other night. And then what was I was really impressed with Flower last night. Like the Wild defended really well, but the first period they weren't very good. They were outshot 12-5. They were outchanced according to Natural Stat Trick 9-4. A couple high danger chances, and Flower hadn't played in 12 days, and he came in and looked great. And I asked him after the game. He's been in the league 21 years, 39 years old. Do you even feel pressure with things going well, not wanting to be that first guy? And he said he did, absolutely. That he knew that people in there, that the naysayers out there, us in the media and fans, were thinking like, all right, John Hynes, are you crazy for not going with the hot guy after a huge win in Florida? And then he throws Flower in there, and he won. And so now the Wild are here in Philadelphia, have an afternoon game tomorrow against a team that's bleeding goals right now. So that should be a winnable game, although stranger things have happened. And then it'll be really interesting after sitting in 3 days in Pittsburgh with the Marc-Andre Fleury goodbye tour.
Oh boy!
It's going to be a real special game Tuesday night when he plays his final game ever in that building where it all started.
Well, maybe he'll show up as McLovin for that game.
You never know.
That is true.
I mean, that was one of the great costumes. I saw the pictures. He nailed that one of McLovin.
Yeah, he. By the way, I said that it all started in that building. Yeah, actually, obviously started in the Igloo. But on the McLovin front, I asked him if he was. I asked him if he was ticked off that his wife leaked it, and he just couldn't believe how fast that she put it out on social media for the world to see. And she said it was her idea, and that maybe she was just so proud of it that she decided to throw it out on Instagram. But it certainly went viral right away. And between his costume and a couple of the others, like Ali B was Jared Spurgeon. It couldn't have been more perfect. There were a couple of really funny costumes at their party at Spurgeon's house the other day.
There you go. I like it. So Marc-Andre Fleury continuing to be Marc-Andre Fleury. I guess that's all we can say. Mike, thanks for the time today. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll get you back at some other point, maybe with Mark. We'll talk a little bit about the relationship between you guys, but that will have to wait another day.
I want to I want to dissect his first ever NHL fight against Ricard Pearson.
Oh, yeah, of course. Hey, I'd rather do that one than Mike Keane. That one was even scary. That was way scarier.
Mike would love to talk about it more, but unfortunately, we have to go now. But that's it. Thanks for the time today, buddy. We'll talk to you down the road.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Right, Michael Russo from The Athletic. When we come back, Devils having a tough night in Detroit. They bounce back tonight at home against the Islanders. Can they get it righted? Talk about the Devils next on First Shift. Devils in action tonight, taking on the Islanders at home. And I wanted to look at this, Mark, because the Devils, even in that really good season 2 years ago, they've been a better road team than they have been at home. They come home tonight to take on the Islanders. They've lost 2 in a row. Any idea why?
There's only one that comes to mind, and you said it before as we were talking about it. Young team, you get a little pressure at home. You do feel that. In the NHL, when you're playing at home, you feel pressure to put on a show, right? You get that extra pretty pass. You're looking for the perfect play as opposed to just the play that's available at the time. And I think you squeeze the stick a little bit when you get that young team. I think you nailed it with that, EJ, because besides that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's hard.
None. Zero sense.
It's hard to explain. And like I said, even in the year 2 years ago when the Devils were really good, they were still better on the road. So we'll see tonight at home against the New York Islander team that needs a win. Devils coming in from Detroit. They had a tough loss last night. Second game of the season for Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce, so they're getting more accustomed to being within the confines of this group. We'll see how things go tonight. Now, I did want to bring this up. It's your first show. So everybody gets a rookie lap, I guess, in the NHL now.
Yeah,
that was not a
right.
thing years ago, but now it's
No,
a thing.
no, it took a little while
So
to
we
get
want
in.
to give you a rookie lap as well.
Thank you.
You know, and let's take a look at little noticeable
Oh, my
first
Lord.
board
Who is
for
that
you.
baby?
Yeah, boy, you were a youngster
Oh,
there.
my
You're
Lord.
a baby.
I didn't have to shave for a few
Yeah.
more years.
Yeah, and look at that. You got a goal on your birthday, which
Yeah.
is nice, you know, and then you had 2 goals on Weeksy. I
Yeah.
don't know why we got to
Which-
we take a shot at Weeksy, but I mean, we
I'm-
done nonetheless.
So glad
Sorry,
that
Weeksy.
we could, and Weeksy,
I'm so glad we
I'm not
could.
sorry, Weeksy.
So is this going to be your first goal? This
This is my
against
first
Tampa.
goal ever. Tampa. Ole Kavacha coming down the outside. Yeah, I kind of beat somebody who was back checking. I didn't realize that they took a Kozlov there on the back check. And literally my one memory of that is don't break your neck.
Yes.
I saw the puck go in, and I wanted to celebrate like mad, of course, but if you see Ranford kind of took my feet out from under me.
Yes.
And I almost went, hey, that was almost my first and last goal in the
goal.
NHL right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first game. I was so excited. We had Sports Center's doing we got to take a look at a rookie in the NHL.
Uh-huh.
You know, everybody's got their eyes down in Florida on this game, and I can't wait thinking they're talking about me. No, it was Vinny Cavalier's first game. So they talked about him the whole time, and I didn't get any airtime, and I scored 2 goals.
Well, there you go. Very, very nicely
I
done.
finally got him back. Take that, Vinny.
Yeah. No, you know,
I
it's funny
love
because
Vinny.
we just saw the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
A little bit different in Florida when you got there.
Wee bit different, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was down there, and no offense to the fans now, there were some fans, they didn't even really understand the game at all. They stood up and cheered when there was a fight, and they cheered when there was a goal, and they cheered louder when there was a fight.
yeah.
Besides that, you could literally kind of look around. You'd see people on their cell phones just talking during. It was such a surreal
Well,
atmosphere.
They weren't doing much on their cell phones in 1998.
Oh yeah,
Well,
they were calling each other.
they're calling each other. Well, listen, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, EJ. This was
And, you know,
fun.
it was nice to look at that goal. That's our first goal. Billy Ranford, he almost got you there. He would do that all the time.
Right?
He would slide
Oh, yeah.
out like that. All right,
Teach
we're
you a
done.
lesson, youngster.
That's right. We're done for today. NHL Now is next. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.